The chamber's light refracted through crystal walls, painting the Dominion Council in pale gold. 12 species sat encircled beneath the imperial crest, their robes immaculate, their eyes sharp with the comfort of dominance. At the center, Chancellor Varel tapped one long claw against the table. "So," he said, his voice amplified across the chamber, 63 years of silence from Earth. No signals, no transmissions, no movement within Sol. He smiled faintly. "The last of their satellites fell 10 years ago. I propose we finalize the record. Humanity extinct." A murmur rippled through the delegates. Some nodded, some laughed. "Tragic," said a Zinari envoy, whose scaled crest shimmered with violet light. "They burned themselves out in less than 3 millennia. Too emotional. Too violent. Too primitive," another added. "They thought mass and metal could replace progress. Now their relics drift through their dead orbit. The chamber's recording drones captured every angle. This was to be archival, a eulogy wrapped in mockery." Chancellor Varel raised his chalice. "To the species that once called themselves Terran, may their ruin remind us of the danger of ambition." Retention microspike. They buried humanity with applause. Across the chamber, holo displays cycled through the last known images of Earth. Dark continents, dim oceans, no satellites in orbit. Each delegate contributed to the theater of closure. "We should repurpose the system," suggested a Lothari admiral. "Turn it into a monument. The grave of fire. It will remind future generations that emotion must yield to order." The council approved. One by one they voted. 12 signatures under a decree that declared humanity officially a closed chapter of barbarism. Varel leaned back, smug. "And yet," he said, "their extinction is convenient. No trials, no reparations. Their war crimes fade with their species." "An elegant ending," the admiral replied. "History," Varel said, "always rewards those who survive to write it." He gestured, and a display lit the air, an animation of Earth's orbit fading to black. The Terrans were instructive. They proved that fear masquerading as courage leads only to annihilation. A few delegates chuckled. "They believed fire solved everything," said the Zinari. "Their railguns, what a name, like children hammering on the void." "They mistook noise for strength," Varel said, "and now silence is their epitaph." The laughter swelled again, polite and venomous. Retention microspike. Mockery breeds blindness. Only one delegate did not join. Ambassador Kell of the Oran Compact watched the holographic Earth turn to shadow. "You're certain the signal silence is natural?" Varel's smile flickered. "Of course. Our scouts confirmed orbital decay, atmospheric scatter consistent with industrial abandonment. Nothing remains but debris." Kell's voice stayed measured. "And if they are not gone?" The council chuckled collectively, the sound almost rehearsed. "Please, Ambassador," Varel said. "If they still existed, they'd have spoken by now. Humans cannot resist broadcasting their existence. Noise is their nature." He tapped the data glyph again. The last transmission from Earth was 63 years ago. Static, then blackout. A species that lived loud and died quietly. That is poetry, if not science. Kell leaned forward. "And what if their silence isn't death, but choice?" The laughter stopped, replaced by polite discomfort. Varel's tone cooled. "Choice? You ascribed too much strategy to a race that couldn't master unity. They were fire without fuel." He turned toward the central AI archive. Record final resolution. "Designate Earth and Sol under category null, uninhabited. Grant open exploration rights to any Dominion charter within one standard cycle." The AI confirmed with a pulse of blue light. "Resolution recorded," it intoned. "Humanity extinct," delegates applauded. Glasses rose. The Empire toasted its moral victory. Beyond the chamber in the observation ring of the capital station, Sol's star glowed faintly through the viewport, just another point of light among billions. No one noticed the flicker. A relay station near the edge of the Perseus drift caught a brief transmission spike, 0.7 seconds broadband, encrypted beyond Dominion standards. The station AI flagged it, classified it as noise, and deleted the record. But for that heartbeat of time, the signal carried 6 words. Not a distress call, not a memory, a statement. Observation resumes. Silence was protocol. The Dominion would not see it for another 3 weeks when the signal echoed across 9 sectors. But by then, the quiet edges of the galaxy had already begun to stir. Retention microspike. Extinction was never confirmation. In the Great Hall of the Dominion Council, the holographic globe of Earth continued to spin in shadow, empty, still, unchanging. Varel raised his glass again. "Let the record show," he said, smiling. Tranquility has returned to the galaxy. Outside, beyond his knowledge, Sol's silence pulsed once more, measured, deliberate, and alive. The signal began as background noise, static, random radiation scatter near Sol. The Dominion's deep space network logged it, tagged it, ignored it. For 63 years, Earth's coordinates had been a grave. Its silence the Empire's proof of victory. Until the noise spoke. At 0317 sector time, the Triarch listening array registered a clean modulation curve. 6 precise pulses, evenly spaced. Amplitude stable to 7 decimals. Artificial, deliberate. The system AI hesitated before alerting command. The probability matrix read 0.004. Impossible origin, Terran. By 0319, the array's outer nodes began to resonate. Each pulse now carried structure, compressed language wrapped in archaic encryption older than Dominion war code. At 0320, the first human word in 6 decades translated through the static. Observation resumes, retention microspike. The dead don't send updates. Admiral Varen arrived at the array command center still fastening his armor crest. "Verify source vector," he ordered. "Confirmed Sol system," replied the comm officer, voice tight. "Origin point 0.9 AU from star, synchronous orbit." "The planet's magnetic field is active again." Varen frowned. "Earth's magnetosphere collapsed decades ago." "Not anymore, sir." He studied the readout. The spectral signature wasn't drift or reflection. It was engineered precision. Each pulse adjusted by microseconds, accounting for cosmic expansion delay. Someone had aimed this message. "Recalculate source elevation," Varen said. The AI complied. "Elevation offset. 106,000 kilometers above former Earth orbit." "No active satellites detected," he exhaled. "Then what's transmitting?" The officer swallowed. "Unknown object. Mass estimate 3.4 megatons. Power trace minimal. No heat signature. Cloaked debris? Negative, sir, motionless, perfect geosync." He stared at the holographic projection, a faint sphere of light circling the dark Earth like a ghost moon. Retention microspike. "Ghosts don't orbit with precision. Patch it to Central Command," Varen ordered. Across the Dominion network, panic rippled through the layers of confidence built on Earth's absence. Thousands of analysts replayed the same 6 words, running translation after translation. Each yielded the same conclusion. It wasn't a distress signal. It was a statement of continuity. At 0342, a Dominion news drone intercepted an encrypted feed leaking from fleet intelligence. Within minutes, half the capital grid was buzzing with speculation. The headlines flashed across public screens. Terran code detected. Solar resurrection. Unverified signal, no cause for concern, but concern spread faster than confirmation. Admiral Varen stood before the grand holomap of the Perseus Rim, tracing the route between Dominion Prime and Sol. "How long for a verification fleet?" 72 hours at slipspace maximum, said his aide. "Task Force Ardent is already rerouting." "Good. Add escort wings." 2,000 ships minimum." "Sir," the aide hesitated. "For one signal?" Varen's gaze hardened. "For one possibility." In the outer sectors, the first scout ships shifted their vector trajectories, scanning deep toward Sol. The noise was gone now, replaced by silence. But silence with weight. The Council issued a statement 3 hours later. Preliminary analysis indicates the source is non-Terran in nature. The Dominion remains vigilant. Every fleet officer recognized the tone, political denial before the investigation had even begun. In the darkness between systems, a single Dominion survey craft crossed the heliopause of Sol. Its sensors flickered as they approached the ancient blue star. "Commander, radiation spike, no modulation wave." The captain leaned over the console. On screen, the static resolved into a faint pattern, 3 symbols glowing in spectral white across the black. "Ancient Terran glyphs, TDI Terran Defense Initiative," the captain whispered. "That organization was dismantled before the fall." "Apparently not," the transmission repeated again. 6 pulses, same rhythm. Observation resumes, The comms tech swallowed. They're alive. Or worse, the captain murmured. They're organized. Retention microspike. 63 years of silence ended with 6 words. Across Dominion space, fleet after fleet came online. 10,000 ships shifted into combat readiness. By dawn cycle, the Dominion Command Center declared Priority Omega, the same designation once reserved for existential threats. Trace the pulse trail, Varen ordered. I want confirmation of life before speculation becomes panic. The AI hesitated before responding. Admiral, there's a secondary signal, weaker but spreading. Define spreading. Replicating through subspace nodes. Every system that scans it becomes a relay. He blinked. You mean, yes, the AI said. The message is using our own network to expand. By 06 hours, the entire Dominion communication grid hummed with faint interference. Every relay, every satellite carried the same encoded rhythm. Analysts decrypted one final line hidden beneath the first phrase. We remember what was promised. Varen stood motionless, his reflection caught in the cold light of the screen. Promised by who? He whispered. The AI responded softly. By us, Admiral. Before the silence began. Far beyond the Dominion's outer rim, the shadow in Sol's orbit pulsed once, infrared, barely perceptible. Earth remained dark, but the message was clear. Humanity hadn't returned to speak. They had returned to listen. The first volley came without warning. 12 beams of white plasma converging across 7 astronomical units, crossing the void in synchronized fury. The Dominion's doctrine demanded dominance through spectacle, and the sight was engineered for awe. 10,000 ships fired as one. The human ship didn't move. Admiral Varen watched from his flagship's observation tier. Contact in 3, 2, 1. The impact hit. The Erebus flared against the darkness, a brief halo of incandescence, a star being born and dying in the same breath. The Dominion bridge erupted in cheers. Sensors flooded with data. Energy yields were logged. Radiant temperature exceeded 12,000 Kelvin. No structure could endure it. No species could survive it. For 4 seconds the blaze drowned all instruments. Then the light faded, and the human ship was still there. Retention microspike. Light failed. Metal endured. The Erebus drifted silently amid the glowing dust of its would-be execution. Its hull temperature stabilized at 310 Kelvin, barely above room heat. A faint shimmer rolled across its armor as if it had drunk the energy whole. Report, Varen snapped. The sensor chief hesitated. 94% absorption efficiency. 6% refracted. The remainder lost to spatial scatter. Refracted? That's impossible. No, sir. The ship's skin redirected part of the blast vector. Some of our own cruisers are registering backwash damage. On-screen, 3 Dominion frigates tumbled, armor peeled like foil. Varen's crest flattened in disbelief. You're telling me they fed on our barrage? Thermal signatures suggest conversion, sir. The ship's reactor output just increased by 14%. The bridge fell silent. Across the fleet, the Dominion transmission net filled with contradictory reports. Sensors glitched. Commanders shouted for verification. Some accused interference. Others, divine punishment. The numbers did not lie. 94% absorbed. 6% refracted. 0 penetration. Varen gritted his teeth. Prepare the second volley. Double the power. Target amidships. The second barrage came harder. 47 synchronized lances striking with tenfold intensity. The beams merged into a single line of annihilation, space bending at the convergence point. When the light cleared again, the Dominion's perfect symmetry was broken. Not by destruction, but by silence. The Erebus now glowed faintly, its hull patterns shifting, layered scales of black iron flexing like muscle under starlight. It had moved 300 meters sideways without thrusters, as if pushed by the force it had consumed. The Dominion's tactical AI flagged the motion as energy recoil, retention microspike. Power returned as power understood. Admiral, said the comms officer, the human ship is transmitting. Audio only, Varen ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was calm, low, measured. This is the Terran vessel Erebus. We acknowledge your demonstration. Return fire will be avoided if you disengage. The translation was perfect. No distortion, no emotion. The tone of someone stating gravity itself. Threat analysis? Varen demanded. The AI hesitated. No escalation detected, but the reactor field. Sir, it's radiating our wavelength signature. They've mirrored our weapon harmonics. He turned sharply. You mean they're reflecting, learning, adapting? A third pulse of light rippled across the Erebus hull. Only this time the Dominion ships didn't fire. It came from them. The energy lances they had unleashed moments ago now refracted backward in perfect symmetry. It was not an explosion. It was geometry made vengeance. 6 beams split the void, tracing the exact paths of the original volley. 6 Dominion cruisers vanished in a flash of pale fire. The bridge alarms wailed. Collateral impact. Internal resonance feedback from our own array. Verne gripped the console. How are they doing this? Their armor, sir, it's not deflective. It's resonant. They're recording energy as a waveform and returning it in phase. The Dominion fleet faltered, formations scattering as reality rewrote itself. Energy, once the supreme expression of control, had become the language of their defeat. Verne's voice dropped to a whisper. What kind of ship is that? The AI answered without emotion. The kind that doesn't fire first. Across the tactical map, the Erebus remained still, silent, unbothered. Its systems pulsed with stolen light. Then a message appeared across all Dominion channels simultaneously, overriding encryption and command priority. Response complete. Awaiting next action. Retention microspike. They mistook silence for surrender. For the first time in a century, the Dominion fleet hesitated. Ships held fire. Admirals exchanged unspoken dread. Verne stared at the cold vessel floating amid their ruined formation, his voice barely audible. Begin full spectrum scan. I want to know how many more of them exist. He didn't notice that beneath the noise floor another signal had begun. A low-frequency hum synchronized with the Erebus's reactor core. The sound was almost like breathing. The Erebus moved. At first, the Dominion thought it was sensor drift, a gravitational echo misread through the fleet's calibration grid. Then the numbers started updating faster than the processors could round them. Velocity, Mach 14, Mach 18, Mach 22, and climbing. The human dreadnought's engines lit like a second sunrise, silent but blinding. Plasma jets folded inward, not outward. Heat suppression through vector inversion. The ship wasn't pushing against the void. It was cutting through it. Admiral Virel of the Dominion's first phalanx leaned forward in disbelief. Mach 28? That's impossible in atmosphere, let alone vacuum navigation. The aide stammered. Confirmed across 8 sensors, sir. The Terran vessel, it's accelerating inside our formation corridor. Across the Dominion battle array, 9,300 ships adjusted position, their algorithms scrambling to compensate for trajectory interference. It didn't matter. The Erebus was already moving faster than their command chain could think. Retention microspike. Numbers break before humans do. On board the Erebus, Commander Vale watched the acceleration metrics roll past redline. His voice stayed calm. Stabilize at Mach 28. Rail batteries align on predictive cross-vector pattern. Kinetic phase engage in 3 seconds. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the magnetic cores. No shouting, no panic. Every motion had been rehearsed 1,000 times in darkness. Target lock? Vale asked. 812 confirmed. Primary targets within 12,000 kilometers. Fire, the Erebus roared. Not with light or energy, but with mass. 12 tungsten slugs left the rails at 54 kilometers per second, invisible until impact. 800 Dominion ships blinked out of existence in the time it took the enemy to exhale. Each hit registered on the tactical feed as a single blue dot. Impact confirmed, debris dispersing, no secondary detonation required. Impact time? Vale asked. 0.7 seconds per volley. He nodded. Cycle and fire again. In space, the Dominion's perfect formation became a cloud of chaos. Fleets designed for elegant symmetry tore themselves apart trying to reposition. Automated defense nodes collided. Orders contradicted one another. Phalanx Sigma collapsing. Gamma wing out of sync. Central AI reports vector corruption. The Erebus didn't chase. It flowed, a spear of iron through glass. On the Dominion flagship, Virel's composure cracked. They can't turn that fast. No inertia buffers can hold. The sensor officer whispered, Sir, they aren't turning. They're plotting trajectories in advance. Every rail strike, every thrust is pre-solved. Virel stared at the hologram. The dreadnought's motion formed a spiral of precision arcs. No randomness, no overcorrection. They predicted our defense grid, retention microspike. Preparation looks like prophecy. Inside the Erebus, Vale stood motionless as the ship spun through the heart of the Dominion line. His tone never changed. Maintain predictive cycle. Adjust fire intervals by 4 milliseconds. Confirmed, came the calm reply. Cycle optimized. Next volley ready. Mach 28, 12 railguns. 24,000 projectiles in 6 minutes. Every Dominion sensor saw the same thing. A storm with no thunder. Only silence and annihilation. Commander, his navigation officer said quietly. Dominion fleets are breaking formation. 3,000 vessels retreating on non-coherent vectors. Vale watched the display, his voice still level. Log impact pattern. Transmit to Fleet Command. Doctrine verified. Copy, sir. Outside, fragments of the Dominion's flagship drifted across the void. Molten, silent, weightless. The Erebus passed through the wreckage like a phantom ship. Status report, Vale said. Armor integrity 100%. Rail efficiency 97%. Thermal conversion stable. Good, prepare deceleration burn. The officer hesitated. Sir, shall we pursue the survivors? Vale's gaze held steady. Negative. We're not here to chase. We're here to remind. The Dominion's remaining ships scattered across the dark, broken geometry against the disciplined vector of one silent dreadnought. Retention microspike. In motionless calm, humanity rewrote physics into obedience. Commander Vale clasped his hands behind his back, watching the collapsing grid of the Dominion fleet. Mark time, he said. 6 minutes. Thousands gone. He turned toward the observation deck. They'll call it brutality. His second officer nodded. They'll call it survival. The Erebus slowed, engines cooling to a deep red glow, drifting between the wreckage it had created. Vale exhaled once. Transmit the ceasefire protocol. Let's see if they remember what mercy looks like. It began with a clock. Comer. Engage sequence. The Erebus drifted motionless in the shadow of her own light. Then the command hit every deck like a heartbeat. 12 railguns aligned, each calibrated to the microdegree. Each barrel charged with 400 terajoules of kinetic potential. Confirmed target spread, Commander Vale said. Confirmed, replied Lieutenant Aaron. 9,012 Dominion vessels inside effective range. Vale nodded. Commence the 6-minute window. Point 15, first volley. The ship shuddered once. Not from recoil, but from history. 12 slugs left the rails at 54 kilometers per second. No flash, no thunder. Just light bending in silence as metal turned to momentum. Across the void, 9 Dominion ships vanished. No debris, no survivors, just vaporized geometry. Sensors logged every impact. The data streamed across the crew's HUDs like sacred scripture. Velocity 54,120 ms. Impact. Yield 62 gigatons. Each confirmed kill marked in blue, Roar 45. Second volley. 84 targets neutralized. No misses, the Dominion fleet's tight diamond formations shattered. Automated command AIs looped contradictory orders. Ships turned against one another, colliding in panic. Their precision was their weakness. Patterns pre-solved by human mathematics 90 seconds before contact. 10. Return fire. Energy lances surged from 10,000 ships, painting the void with gold and violet beams. The Erebus swallowed the light. 93% absorbed, 7% redirected. Armor heat rose to 1800 Kelvin, then stabilized. Damage report? Vale asked. Nominal. Outer mesh displacement, 0.6%. Continue cycle. Retention microspike. They measured chaos in seconds. Humanity counted calmly. Fourth volley. The Erebus accelerated, sliding laterally through its own shockwaves. Kinetic slugs curved mid-flight, each following gravitational ripples mapped in advance. The Dominion's flanking phalanx, 2,000 ships strong, disintegrated in a curtain of silence. Fifth volley. Every barrel fired independently. 12 mines of machine precision sharing one rhythm. The Dominion flagship Virillion broke formation, its shields rupturing as the 8th projectile tore straight through its command core. Flagship destroyed, said Aaron. Confirmation at coordinates Delta 07. Vale didn't look up. Log and continue. 3 HFY, counterstrike. The Dominion's remaining vessels formed a sphere of plasma fire around the Erebus. Tens of thousands of lances converged. The human ship vanished in blinding white. For 7 seconds, Dominion channels filled with triumph. Then the light dimmed. The Erebus was still there. Its hull glowed red, bleeding excess heat into vented plasma that trailed like wings. Reactor efficiency, 104%, Aaron said quietly. We're generating more power than we consume. Vale's tone remained even. Then feed it back. Gurren's 7th volley. The Erebus opened every rail. 12,000 projectiles launched in cascading order. Kinetic saturation. No AI in the galaxy could process the trajectories fast enough to respond. The Dominion grid fractured 5 buoy 9th volley. Enemy ships began colliding under panic maneuvers. Each Dominion pilot believed he was the target, and most were right. 8,000 neutralized, reported tactical. Remaining fleet under scatter command. Mark time, Vale said. 5:30. 10th volley. Sensors counted 8,962 confirmed kills. Dominion comms screamed across open bands. Pleas for retreat, for understanding. The Erebus answered with silence. Retention microspike. Mercy waits behind Mathro 555. Final volley. The Erebus rolled, rails aligning toward the last intact formation of 300 ships. Vale's eyes narrowed. Cease targeting civilians. Focus war assets only. Acknowledged. The last volley fired. The Dominion's armed vessels disintegrated into blue sparks. Civilian escorts drifted unharmed through the wreckage. Ren cycle. Silence returned. Only data remained. Vale clasped his hands behind his back. Report. Enemy fleet 9,000 vessels neutralized. Duration, 360 seconds. Survivors, 283, all non-combatants. He exhaled once. No satisfaction, no triumph. Transmit coordinates of medical recovery zones. Doctrine of Mercy, Phase 1. The crew obeyed without hesitation. Human beacons flared through the darkness, guiding the stunned survivors toward aid. Retention microspike. Power without restraint is savagery. Power with restraint is civilization. Vale turned to the viewport, watching the fragments of once perfect ships drift away. Log it, he said. 6 minutes of fire. Then silence. The guns of the Erebus fell silent, not by command lag, not from heat limits or ammunition cycles. They stopped. Deliberately, simultaneously, absolutely. Commander Vale stood at the viewport, watching the last streaks of molten debris drift across the dark. The Dominion's war grid was gone, 9,000 ships reduced to silence. The remaining few hundred hung scattered in panic, engines cold, comms fractured. Ceasefire protocol verified, said Lieutenant Aaron. Rails locked. Capacitors cycling down. Vale nodded once. Transmit the declaration. Across the wreck fields, the human signal propagated, a calm voice on every open frequency. This is the Terran vessel Erebus. Hostilities are suspended. All Dominion units are under protection of the Interstellar Concord Accords. Surrender guarantees treatment under law. Further resistance will be recorded as unlawful aggression. The words were clear, the tone unshakable. No triumph, no rage. Just law spoken through iron. Retention microspike. Mercy is power restrained by memory. On board the Dominion flagship Restora, Admiral Viril's surviving officers stared at the transmission. No one moved. Every tactical screen showed the same data. Energy readings normalized, weapons offline, targeting systems disengaged. The human dreadnought, the monster that had annihilated a civilization's pride in 6 minutes, had gone still. Do they mock us? An officer whispered. Virel shook his head slowly. No, they're warning us what comes next. He tapped his comms. Open reply. His voice, brittle and fractured, echoed through the static. Terran command. We acknowledge. Surrender. The Dominion's network logged the signal across all remaining ships. 9 seconds later, every surviving captain followed suit. On the Erebus, Aaron turned from her console. Confirmation received. Multiple coded submissions under Dominion distress channels. Formal surrender complete. Vale didn't smile. Mark it. And record the timestamp for Informing 47 standard. Good. Begin casualty retrieval and triage. Prioritize survivors nearest the blast perimeter. No one dies unassisted. Understood, sir. Medical drones deployed from every hangar. Swarms of silver wings streaking into the ruin fields, scanning for life signs. Where the Dominion had expected vengeance, they found rescue beacons. In the crew pit, Ensign Mora whispered. Sir, the broadcasts, Dominion networks are streaming us galaxy-wide. Vale didn't turn. Let them. Retention microspike. Let them see who we became. The Dominion's capital world would wake to the image of a single Terran ship drifting among the bodies of its fleet, not finishing the slaughter, but gathering the wounded. The message was as deliberate as any strike. On the Erebus, the decks glowed with soft medical lights. Crew members moved in perfect rhythm, faces unreadable, motions precise. The doctrine of balance wasn't a tactic. It was oath. Vale's voice stayed calm as he reviewed the logs. Impact data archived? Yes, Commander. 9,000 confirmed kills, none civilian. Duration, 360 seconds. Transmit full combat telemetry to the Dominion Council unaltered. Aaron hesitated. Unaltered, sir? Yes, truth is the sharpest weapon left. He stepped toward the forward display. Wreckage floated like ash beneath distant stars, the quiet aftermath of perfection. Retention microspike. In silence, the law speaks loudest. Commander, Aaron said softly. Fleet Command requests next phase authorization, occupation or withdrawal. Vale's gaze didn't move from the window. Neither, he said. Balance means knowing when to stop. He folded his hands behind his back. Transmit this statement to all bands. Combat terminated. Dominion survivors are to be treated under interstellar humanitarian law. Justice replaces vengeance. End of engagement. She relayed it word for word. The galaxy heard. Billions watched. Across military forums and political nets, the data spread. The proof that humanity, once feared for its brutality, now commanded through restraint. Vale exhaled once, quietly. Doctrine of balance complete. Prepare for tribunal operations. The ship's hum softened to near silence. No victory fanfare, no chants. Just a deep, steady pulse. The rhythm of civilization remembering what it meant to be human. At first, the Dominion thought it was interference. Sensor ghosts. Reflections from debris. Echoes from wreckage still cooling in the void. Then the ghosts began to move. 1, then 7, then 67. Each shape emerged from the dark behind the Erebus, not burning or flashing into existence, but unfolding, like shadows turning to steel. Commander, said Lieutenant Aaron, voice tight but steady. Multiple signatures decloaking in Quadrant 7. Confirmed Terran registry, custodian-class warships. 67 exact. Vale didn't react at first. He simply watched the tactical map blossom into formation. Rings of precise geometry around the Erebus, each ship positioning itself at fixed coordinates. The Dominion survivors panicked, broadcasting new alerts across every open band. Impossible, whispered one of the alien officers aboard the Restora. We mapped their entire fleet. There were no reinforcements. No reinforcements, Vale said quietly. Only preparation. Retention microspike. Victory isn't luck, it's rehearsal. The newcomers aligned without a word. Their hulls bore no insignia, only matte black plating inscribed with faint silver script. Custodian fleet. Doctrine of balance. Each ship carried additional modules, cylindrical vaults of data and docking frames radiating low-spectrum heat. They weren't assault carriers. They were archives. Aaron's console flickered with a new stream of telemetry. Commander, I'm detecting secondary bays on each vessel. Not weapon pods, medical arrays, cryo wards, refuge pods. Vale nodded once. Confirmed transmission protocols. Confirmed. Each custodian ship broadcasting recovery orders and medical jurisdiction codes. They're pre-positioned for civilian retrieval. On the Dominion command channel, the remaining admirals stared at the feed in silence. What they saw wasn't an invasion fleet. It was something colder and more deliberate. They planned this, Virel muttered. Even their mercy is organized. On screen, the 67 custodians synchronized. Docking arms deployed. Thousands of drones detached in glittering streams dispersing across the ruin fields. The Dominion's shattered lifeboats were tagged, secured, and tractored back toward human ships. Commander, said Aaron, our comms net is receiving encrypted uploads from each custodian. They're sharing the full engagement record. Every shot, every casualty, every decision. Vale replied evenly. Then the tribunal will have no arguments. The data will speak louder than propaganda. He turned toward navigation. Align the fleet into Tier 3 stabilization grid. Shield overlapping. No weapons active. Within minutes, the black silhouettes arranged themselves into concentric rings, their lights dimming until they formed a single pattern visible even to the naked eye, a luminous cross between orbits, like a constellation built from resolve. Retention microspike. Mercy has formation too. From the Dominion's battered sensors, the vision was biblical. 67 ships equidistant still as monuments, surrounding the human dreadnought at their center, a living archive, ready to heal what it had destroyed. On one channel, a Dominion war correspondent whispered to her recorder, "They aren't warriors. They're witnesses." Vale heard the report through an open relay and didn't correct her. He simply said, "Activate humanitarian corridors. Sector 9 through 14. Escort all surviving Dominion civilians. No distinction by rank or allegiance." "Understood," Aaron replied. "Transmission underway. Dominion acknowledgement codes verified. They're accepting the offer." He allowed himself a small exhale. Good. The custodians moved like a single organism, engines low, lights pulsing in sync. Hundreds of Dominion lifeboats drifted toward them under human escort, tractor beams guiding them into sterile docking bays. The air between enemy ships shimmered with transport vectors. "Commander," said Aaron quietly, "some of their medical teams are asking if they may assist our med corps." Vale paused. "Grant permission. Cooperation begins today. Retention microspike. Mercy isn't spoken. It's mirrored." Within the hour, the combat zone became a triage field. Wreckage still glowed, but among it moved ships of both sides, Dominion cruisers operating beside Terran custodians, exchanging supplies, evacuating their own wounded. Every minute was recorded. Every heartbeat archived. Humanity wasn't just saving lives, it was rewriting history in real time. Aaron looked to Vale. "Should we broadcast this across the galactic channels?" He didn't hesitate. Already done. The feed carried out across the stars. 68 Terran ships, enemy and ally, working side by side in the ashes of war. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy watched unity instead of conquest. Vale clasped his hands behind his back. "Let them call us what they will," he said. "We'll answer with discipline." He turned once more toward the viewport where the Erebus gleamed faintly amid its silent choir. "Mark it," he said quietly. "The doctrine of balance has found its voice." The second dawn began without a single weapon fired. Across the shattered expanse of Kareth Gate, the Dominion survivors watched in disbelief as Terran relief ships emerged from the dark. Smaller than the Erebus, sleeker than the custodians, each bore the same insignia etched in silver: Doctrine of Balance. 60 auxiliary fleets fanned outward, their engines pulsing soft amber. No broadcast threats, no intimidation maneuvers, just quiet movement, order returning to the void. "Commander Vale," reported Lieutenant Aaron. "Civilian clusters located. Estimated 20 million survivors in scattered sectors. Life pods, derelicts, orbital stations." "Begin recovery," Vale said. "No retaliation. Any aggression voids the accord." "Understood, sir. Retention microspike. Mercy requires more courage than war." The Terran relief fleets formed wide arcs across the ruined system. Each ship deployed thousands of drones, rescue spheres equipped with heat sensors and field stabilizers. They moved like fireflies across wreckage, tracing signals of life. One by one, Dominion civilians were found. Families in escape pods drifting through vacuum. Med officers trapped in twisted hulls. Children sealed inside cargo bays that had become coffins. Every survivor was pulled aboard. No distinction of species, uniform, or history. From his damaged bridge, Admiral Varel watched the live feeds transmitted across the Dominion net. "They're saving our people," he whispered. "After this, after everything." His adjutant stared, voice breaking. "They're broadcasting it galaxy-wide." Indeed, every rescue transmission was unencrypted. Billions across the stars could see humanity hauling their enemies from death. The message was clear. Dominion arrogance ended here. Terran mercy began here. On the Erebus, Vale oversaw the coordination personally. "Triage protocols," he said. "Red tag, critical injury, route to custodian medbays. Yellow, stable, hold for transfer. Green, immediate evac to planetary orbit." Aaron's voice stayed level. "Recovery rate at 78%. Estimated completion, 4 hours. Keep drones rotating. Every life counts." In the command pit, a technician turned. "Commander, Dominion captains are requesting permission to assist." Vale's gaze didn't waver. Grant it. Observation permitted, interference forbidden. Let them witness how discipline saves lives. Retention microspike. Justice witnessed is justice remembered. By the second hour, entire Dominion rescue flotillas had joined formation. Where fleets once fought, they now moved in silent coordination. Terran and alien vessels weaving through debris, towing escape pods toward stabilization rings. From orbit, the sight resembled a sunrise, glowing thruster trails forming radiant lines across the black, a new constellation born from ruin. On one broadcast, a Dominion field medic was asked what she saw. Her answer traveled across every channel. They aren't soldiers anymore. They're caretakers. Inside the Erebus, Vale received the transmission. He said nothing, only nodded once. Commander, Aaron said softly. Fleet Command confirms total civilians recovered, 19.7 million. Ongoing search suggests final count surpassing 20. Vale exhaled. Mark it. Humanity's first lawful rescue under interstellar scrutiny. She paused. Sir, the Dominion networks are calling it the second dawn. Vale looked toward the viewport where hundreds of ships now glimmered under the distant star's light. Then let it rise, he said, retention microspike. No empire survives mercy, but mercy survives every empire. Hours later, the rescue grids completed their final sweeps. Medical shuttles lined the void, each one carrying hundreds of wounded Dominion civilians. Every hull bore the same markings, property of the Terran Concord. Do no harm. Admiral Varel, from his hospital berth aboard a custodian ship, turned to his aide. Record this, he said weakly. They've rewritten the laws of war. On the bridge of the Erebus, Vale gave his final order of the operation. Deactivate combat beacon. Notify Dominion Command that all rescued civilians are under human protection until treaty review. Confirmed, said Aaron. Transmission sent. Vale clasped his hands behind his back. His voice was barely above a whisper. The galaxy thought peace meant weakness. They were wrong. Peace's strength held steady. Outside, the rescue fleets burned brighter than the debris fields they replaced. 20 million lives carried from extinction, and a galaxy forced to remember the day humanity chose restraint over revenge. The Erebus was no longer a warship. It had become a hospital orbiting silence. Her decks, once lined with gunmetal precision, now glowed sterile white under bioluminescent strips. Hundreds of Dominion survivors filled the triage bays, alien anatomy and Terran medicine working side by side beneath banners marked in 2 languages. Do no harm. Commander Vale walked the central causeway, the hum of med drones replacing the rhythm of combat. Status, he asked quietly. Lieutenant Aaron matched his pace, datapad in hand. Primary med bays full. Custodian auxiliaries are taking overflow. Current total, 41,000 survivors processed, 17,000 stabilized. And fatalities? Minimal since recovery began. 98% rescued alive, he nodded once. Broadcast the metrics across all Dominion channels. Let their command know how many we saved. Retention microspike. Mercy quantified is mercy proven. Across the galaxy, the Dominion's networks carried the live feed. Alien soldiers being treated by human medics. Wounds sealed with Terran plasma sutures. Respiration assisted by biosynthetic lungs built for multiple species. The images spread faster than propaganda ever could. One commentator whispered on air, "They could have finished us. Instead, they're healing us." Vale paused beside a recovery bay where a Dominion officer lay pale and shaking. His compound eyes focused weakly as the human commander approached. Why? The alien rasped through the translator. You destroyed us. Vale's expression never shifted. Correction, he said. We stopped you. Destruction was optional. The alien's mandibles quivered. And mercy? Mandatory. He turned away before the silence could become emotion. On a nearby monitor, global metrics scrolled in crisp military font. 20,000, 12,437 civilians rescued. 41,000 treated. 0 retaliations. Commander, Aaron said. Fleet Command requests a statement for the Galactic Assembly. The media feed is live across 17 systems. Vale stopped before the viewport. The stars reflected in his uniform's insignia, polished silver, unbloodied. Transmit this, he said evenly. His voice filled the transmission net. To the Dominion and to every species watching, our doctrine stands unchanged. Power without restraint is chaos. Power with restraint is civilization. Today we have chosen civilization. Retention microspike. They expected cruelty. They found control. Across Dominion channels, the response was disbelief. Some called it a performance. Others called it impossible. But none could deny the evidence. Terran ships filled with the wounded they'd fought hours ago. In the upper med deck, a Dominion child clung to a Terran nurse's sleeve as she adjusted his oxygen hood. "Are you going to keep us?" he asked through translation. The nurse smiled faintly. "No," she said. "We're going to send you home." Down in logistics, engineers dismantled rail batteries to power cryo wards. Crew members surrendered quarters to make room for evacuees. Onboard discipline held firm. No anger, no celebration, just purpose. Vale watched the activity unfold on a live schematic. Every Terran deck pulsed with motion, and yet not a single weapon was online. Aaron stepped beside him. "Commander, Dominion High Command just issued a statement. They've suspended military operations indefinitely, calling for review under the Interstellar Ethics Council." He exhaled quietly. Then it worked. What worked, sir? Reminding them what strength actually is. Retention microspike. Discipline is the language the galaxy forgot. The broadcast feed lingered for hours. Images of wounded Dominion officers saluting their human medics, of shared rations, of stillness replacing terror. Historians would later call it the hour humanity redefined war. Vale gave his final order before stepping off the bridge. "Deactivate external cameras. Let them rest now." "We've shown enough," Aaron nodded. "And when the Dominion asks what comes next?" He stopped at the hatchway, voice steady. "Tell them this. The war ended when the guns stopped, and mercy began." Outside, the Erebus drifted among the stars, engines dim, its reflection framed by the wreckage it refused to celebrate. The galaxy's strongest fleet stood unarmed and untouchable. It began with a pulse so faint it registered beneath sensor noise, yet perfect in rhythm as if the void itself were breathing. Out past the galactic rim, where light no longer traveled and time bent around ancient gravity wells, deep-range Terran satellites recorded the anomaly. The Erebus was already en route home when the signal reached Fleet Command. Lieutenant Aaron's console chimed once. "Commander," she said slowly, "long-range net has a detection echo. It's not Dominion. Not any known transponder." Vale looked up from the medlog reports. "Location? Sector Theta 9. Outer Rim Isolation Zone. Distance 62,000 light-years from Kareth Gate." "Define the signature." She hesitated. "A lattice pattern. Artificial, expanding. Across 3 systems simultaneously, the bridge lights dimmed as the projection unfolded, a web of red and violet lines spreading outward from a single point beyond the charted rim. No ships, no energy cores. Just coordination, perfect mechanical, alive, retention microspike. The silence that follows mercy always tests it. Cross-reference with historical archives, Vale ordered. The AI responded instantly. Match found. Designation, Exterminator Lattice. Recorded activity, 14,000 years prior. Status presumed inert. A quiet filled the bridge. Even the reactor seemed to hum softer, listening. Aaron frowned. "Commander, the Dominion's forward observatories are transmitting panic pings. They're detecting the same pattern." Vale studied the holographic lattice. "Show me its movement vector." A thin blue line extended across the starfield straight toward Dominion space. Another pulse followed, then another, each one expanding the grid. Frequency? Every 8 minutes, 31 seconds. Amplitude? Increasing exponentially, sir. It's synchronizing with our telemetry. The realization spread like frost. Whatever the signal was, it had noticed them. Vale clasped his hands behind his back. "Notify all custodian ships. Priority Tier 1 encryption. Phrase code observation confirmed." Aaron's fingers trembled only once before she transmitted. Message sent. Across the black 67 custodian warships received the code. One by one, their engines flickered back to life, forming a vast perimeter around the Erebus. The network came alive, old systems awakening from standby as if they'd been waiting for this moment. On Dominion channels, panic spread faster than logic. Reports flooded in from frontier colonies. Entire observatories blinded by sudden radiation spikes. Distant moons shimmering with magnetic distortion. Fleets halting mid-course to avoid invisible barriers. "Commander," said Aaron, Outer rim sensors now confirm secondary contact. Unknown fleet emerging from beyond mapped space. Vale's eyes narrowed. Fleet size? She swallowed. Uncountable. The lattice isn't a signal, it's formation architecture. We're reading 4.2 million discrete objects. No biosigns. No emissions. All synchronized, retention microspike. Every ending waits for its next observer. The bridge fell into wordless awe. The Dominion had mocked humanity's return, feared its ships, witnessed its mercy. But even they had no language for this, an ancient network stretching between galaxies, watching both victor and vanquished alike. Aaron whispered, "They're not attacking." Vale nodded slowly. "Not yet. They're learning." She turned to him. "Sir, what if they've always been here, waiting for another civilization to reveal itself?" Vale looked toward the viewport. The stars beyond seemed smaller now, trapped behind the slowly brightening lattice lines crawling toward the galactic plane. "Then the galaxy has just reminded itself what extinction looks like," he said softly. "Orders, Commander?" He hesitated only once. "Transmit a signal, Terran encryption open band." "Phrase it exactly. Humanity acknowledges the pulse. Observation mutual." The transmission left the Erebus, vanishing into the infinite dark. For 30 seconds, nothing. Then every Terran console blinked red. The lattice responded. One synchronized flash across all detected nodes, so bright it outshone the surrounding stars. Then silence. Vale stood unmoving. "Interpretation?" Aaron exhaled. "It acknowledged us." The crew said nothing. They didn't need to. The truth hung in the air like gravity itself. Humanity's victory had not gone unnoticed. It had been recorded. Retention microspike. They watched the dawn, and the dark watched back. Vale straightened his collar. "Log this as official contact event Delta 1. Prepare the fleet. Humanity has awakened something that remembers everything." Outside, the stars shimmered again, pulsing in quiet reply, like a heartbeat returning from beyond the horizon.